Okay, we are recording. Now I will share. Okay, so let's see. First things first, let's fix this stuff in that kind of went wrong. So this was the book trader demo, and let me see what I've got here. Here's the book trader demo. Let me make sure this is up to date. I've got tables, books, and users. So I've deleted what we had there. So let me go ahead and just show you and remind you what we had before. Let's see, I've already got this. Okay, cool. So here's what we did. So I was saying that you want to refactor your tables so that you no longer are thinking about it in terms of creating a brand new table for each and every user. There's a reason why we thought about it that way conceptually at first, and I took it to the step of even having you create kind of a demo table. But it's not the way you want to do things, because you'll wind up with a gazillion tables, and that can lead to loss of integrity of data, and et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to deal with tens of thousands of tables with hardly any data in them. So what I had you guys do instead is to create a junction table. Let's see, use book trader demo. So let me show you what I think I did. And I'm not going to run it or anything, but what I did was I said, okay, create table, and users and books. As a reminder, let's see, select. So this is just my little concept. I just got like 10 rows of kind of placeholder content here. And the idea is that books users can create the reading list, and maybe they can do a little bit of a user rating, like I can rate the book once I've read it, that sort of thing. So probably want to do this just in case. I mean, I'm looking over here and seeing that the table doesn't exist, but it's not a bad idea to start off with, and this is what I gave extra credit for in the midterm exam, is doing drop table if exists. I think I did it for, I give extra credit for doing that for the database, but you can also do it for a table. So drop table if exists, users, and books. Drop that, and if it doesn't exist, you get a little warning, but it doesn't break anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and create the table user books. Now, I always wanted to do it just like this. I always wanted to be able to just create a table and then put columns and so on into it later on. Like if you're doing a scripting language, and you can just kind of declare a variable. In most languages, not all of them, you can declare a variable without giving them an initial value, and or you certainly can in JavaScript at least. And then you can add that variable, or you can add the data later on. But you can't really do that in MySQL. You have to go ahead and give it the columns that you want in there, which doesn't mean you can't create other columns later, of course. You can add columns, you can rename the columns, and so on and so forth. So here's what I did. I did a user's ID, which is meant to be a foreign key that's referencing the ID column of users. And this is what you're supposed to be able to do. References, and then users, and then ID. So there's a column users ID in this new table, and it's a foreign key that references the users table and the ID column. Likewise, I did books ID, references, books ID. So, and I think I put in user rating, and this was just a decimal with 2 digits, one of which is after the decimal point. So this should work, and it does not. So, but this is the part that really threw me for a loop, because in fact all of it wasn't throwing an error, and everything I saw said, yeah, this should work, and this is the thing that is supposed to work and does not. So I didn't realize that before class. I do now. So let's do it the right way. So I'm going to And by the way, there's one thing that I forgot. I thought this was looking a little shy here. You'd also want to do int and possibly not null as well, right? You need to give it the data type, no matter what. No matter what else happens with the columns, the column definition needs to have at least a data type. So let's do it the other way. I'm going to get rid of these guys, and we're going to do it more explicitly so that it's not inline. Hello, there we go. But instead, have them as separate clauses here. So down here, after the columns, you put another trailing comma here, and here you type in your foreign key, and then you got to tell it what column you're talking about, user's ID, references, and you can do this on 2 lines or 1. Here, I'll just do it on 1. So this, unlike the other way, actually works. And we have to do one for each of these, right? We wanted a foreign key on user's ID and another one on book's ID. So this one would be foreign key and then book's ID and references, the books table, and the ID column in there. So this is the way you want to do it. Just in case there was any question from all that big jumble of errors and comedy of errors that happened on Monday, this is the way you want to do it. Now, if you want to really be explicit about it, and by which I mean if you want to actually name the key constraints here, then you can use the more verbose language that I actually use, which is to declare a constraint here before foreign key. It's part of the same clause, so there's no comma at the end of this line. But then you can name it if you want to. So this would be like I don't know, users, books, FK for foreign key, and then what other table is it referencing? And this first one would reference users. And then I would do another one down here, constraint, the current table, FK for foreign key, and then this one would reference the books table. So this is, I mean, it does the same thing, except again, it enables you to name it if you want to. You can name these constraints. Now, I would say, well, yeah, most of you guys probably won't want to do it. You probably want the simpler version. But actually, a lot of you, I've seen you coding this way already. So you can. And this is the way that I do it. But if you don't want to, if you want something a little bit shorter than that, then you can do it the first way that I did it and just have the foreign keys here. So this now should work. Notice how careful I'm being with how I say that. This should work. But let's go ahead and see. I think that this will do it. I'm just going to double check it. Uses ID int. Let's go ahead and put not null in here because that should be something we add, and that really should not cause a problem. User rating decimal, but that one is that can be null. In fact, let's go ahead and give it a default of null, so that if the user doesn't enter anything, it gets a value of null in there. Foreign key, user's ID, references user's ID. Foreign key, book's ID, references book's ID. So very common errors in here are ones that I just made right here. I'm always forgetting to put an S on one of these, and sometimes I forget to do it over here, even though I know what my tables are named. But if you make a mistake, something like that, it'll throw an error, it'll let you know where it are. Like, hey, I couldn't find that column, that doesn't exist. Do something different. Okay, one last I over, create table users books. All right, that should do it. I'm going to do a control enter here. It likes it. So what I'm doing now is I'm not going to take this at face value. I'm going to do a search for, or I'm actually going to do a table inspector on this. Now, as you guys know, the navigator is not very good about refreshing itself. It refreshes immediately if you drop a table, but it doesn't show up here immediately. So you got to go ahead and refresh up here. And there's users books, and I'm going to hover and go to the table inspector here by clicking on the I. And then I'll check my columns first. There should be 3 columns. Then I'm going to check the indexes, which will give me where these guys are. And yeah, these are both listed as keys. No keys here. And then the foreign keys, it doesn't show up. If I click refresh, I get the error message. I don't know what's up with that. I think this is just a MySQL workbench bug that's been there for a long, long time as well. But the way that I can be sure now, or at least surer, is to go ahead and turn this into an EER diagram. So I'm going to do that before I do anything else. I should have my three tables. This one should be referencing the other guys. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Home tab, and I'm going to go to this little arrow, create EER model from database. What just happened? Okay, are you guys seeing this okay? The reverse engineer database?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so just going through this one more time. You just have to kind of click on next, and then you have to put in your password, as you guys know, for each and every one, each and every time you access this. It gets to be a pain after a while, but if it gets too troublesome, you can go ahead and save your password there. And then next, and then select the database that you want to turn into an EER diagram, and then just kind of next your way through. Next, finish. And sometimes it doesn't do a very good job about organizing these tables, but let me just drag these around a little bit so that we can see. And this looks more like what I expected to see at first, and this is now looking like it's working fine. I can see, as you guys know, these red diamonds mean foreign keys. These are the one-to-many relationships that I would expect. To make absolutely certain, I'm going to drop down the indexes in all three of these. These two should have a primary. This one should have two foreign keys, not listed as primary. And it doesn't, like, for a moment I was like, oh crap, it didn't give me the name, but I just remembered that I used the less verbose language, the more concise language of not actually putting the constraint and giving it a name. So if you do that, this is probably what you'll get. It'll just name them after the columns. So I was saying that this is what you should submit to me to show that you have refactored your database. So there were two things for the project, right? Refactoring the database and then adding the user, granting permissions on them and so on. So this one here, I would just save this, Control S, and it will save as a model, MWB. We're now in Unit 8, so let me go there. Oh, I don't have a Unit 8 folder. I will now make one. And I can't remember what I had you guys call it exactly, but it's something like I don't know, refactoring or something like that. I don't know, whatever it is on the assignment, just go ahead and name it that. So I'll save this, and then that's what you want to type in or submit for that part of it. So I can go ahead and close that. Okay, so hopefully that cleared things up about the right way to do this now. Now let me go ahead and run through the process of creating a user, and this time I'll go ahead and just make one called Book Trader Admin instead of Book Trader Demo Admin. So let me go ahead and open up a new SQL tab here. It's not a bad idea to keep things kind of separate in different tabs. So this one is about creating the table, the junction table, and then I want to do some stuff about creating a new user. Just open up a new tab, just kind of keep things organized a little bit here. So what we're going to do here is this is review. Okay, so we did this on Monday. We're reviewing this part 2, so I'm going to do a create user. Make that a bit larger. And Book Trader Admin. This would be a fairly common way of naming this if the name of the app is Book Trader. I mean, it can be like really tempting to just call it app admin or web admin, but the thing is, I mean, if you're a database administrator, then you may have several different databases at any given time with, a different user for each one, right? So you don't want to just use something generic like that necessarily. So anyway, Book Trader Admin, and let me see if this, I want to see if this exists. I don't think it does. Well, you know what? I'm sure it does not. Yeah, let's just go ahead and move on. I don't want to. bring up too much. Well, let's just go ahead and do it. Why not? So remember this bit here. We did this at the very beginning where it was select certain things, and then just like if you're selecting something from a table, and you are returning a table, and you return it from MySQL dot, oh gosh, what is it? Is it users dot user, I think it is, like this. So if we type in just select user from MySQL.user, go away, then it'll let you know what users you have. Before we did it on Monday, I asked for other things too. I asked for their authentication, the host on each one. In fact, let's go ahead and get the host as well, because that is important. So here are all like the local host users here. So I've got AP tester, I've got an app admin like we talked about. Here's the book trader demo admin. And then so I was going through all this just to make sure that I do not have a book trader admin, and I do not. So I'm good to go with that. So when you create a new user, and whenever you reference this user, you have to include the username and the host. So that's why I returned the host here as well. So you can't just say create user book trader admin. You have to say create user book trader admin at localhost. There we go. And that's all we need to do to start with. Oh, no, it's not. We got to put in their password as well. So you do that with identified by down here. So it's part of the same clause or the same script. Identified by, and then what do you want the password to be? So right now for this demo purposes and for the projects and so on, I'm just using password for all these passwords. Of course, you would want to do something different. In case anyone's wondering, no, that's not the password I have for my root user. I do have something a little harder to guess for that one. But yeah, create user.
So password 2.
Why password 2?
Well, it's a little bit more complex than password.
Oh, I get it. Sorry. I thought you were saying that because a different user used password, I have to use something different for this one. But yeah, I get it. So yeah, how about like password, hooray. Or yeah, I don't know. Anyway, if it doesn't matter whether people can guess it, then yeah, of course you can do whatever you want to, right? So identified by password, and oh, I need to put this in parentheses, sorry.
Of course, nowadays passwords need to be so complex that you're never going to remember what your password is.
Let's see, why does it think that's an error? Am I wrong about the parentheses? I thought the parentheses. See, this is a script that you don't do as often. You only create a user once in a while. So I thought this was.
I have Monday's file up, and there are no parentheses on it.
No parentheses. Okay, so I'm wrong about that. So yeah, okay, it seems to like that better. Okay, I could have sworn there were parentheses there, but Control Enter. There we go. We like it. So if we now do select host and user, and there is our new book trader admin as the third one down. And so we can now grant some permissions to this new user. So remember what we were saying on Monday, that your big data table, whatever it is, should be untouchable. That should be considered a third rail. It's completely off limits, right? And so you don't want to grant this user permission on anything on that table except for select statements. Select statements means that they can select data, they can retrieve data, they can look data up, they can do all that stuff. They just can't do anything to the data or to the table structure. Like they can't insert, they can't delete, they can't update, they can't modify, they can't alter the table, can't do anything except for just select. So that's the simplest one that you can do. We can do grant select. Let me just do that in one line here. On, and then mine is called books. Grant select on books. To, and then tell it what user you want to grant this permission to. And so this is my new user of book trader admin. I can see it right down there. And whenever you do this, you have to put in the host as well. So I still have to do book trader admin at localhost. Got to put the whole thing in there or else it does not work.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is this the file that we're going to submit, or was it the previous one?
It was the previous one. This is a review, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm basically doing the same stuff again.
Roger. Just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, if anybody got lost on Monday, then you could type this out now and that would work. Okay, so if I want to see that this is taking effect, then I can do show grants. On Book Trader admin at localhost. Always got to do the host. Is it 4? Boy, I'm making all kinds of errors this week, aren't I? There we go. So remember that, like if we hadn't done a grant at all, it would already show grant usage on everything, and that's a bit misleading. It makes it sound like they've been giving these permissions, and it doesn't mean that at all. Grant usage simply means, okay, at this stage, the user has no permissions whatsoever, but they can be granted usage. I think that's all that means. So we just did a grant select on BookTrader demo. So let's go ahead and do the other tables. So I need to do a grant, and then for the other tables, I'm going to grant them full CRUD operations. So they'll be able to select, they'll also be able to insert, they'll be able to delete, and they'll be able to, excuse me, they'll be able to update. So I'll do select, insert, select by commas, update, and delete on, and this will be users. So this will give them the ability to create new users, to discontinue users, to select users, and of course update if someone wants to change their password. And let's see, what was it? BookTrader demo? No, BookTrader admin at localhost. And there we go. And we're going to do one more, and then I'll do the show grants thing again. So we also want them to be able to do all of these things on the user's books table, which is that junction table, right? So whenever a user decides, yeah, I want to put this book on my reading list, that's going to go in the user's books table, and so the admin needs to have control over that too. Also needs to be able to select, insert, update, and delete from there. So give them the same permissions on that guy, and this will be on let's see, users books to BookTrader admin. Yeah, at localhost. Don't forget the at localhost part. All right, there we go. It's showing green, so I will go up here and show grants. And there we go. So the usage is that default, and then we got select on books, and then we've got the other ones here. Select, insert, update, delete. Doesn't show the whole thing, but that's okay. I know what it says. So this is what you want to do for your project if you haven't already. And once you've done this for your project, save this SQL file, because that's, in fact, let me go ahead and do that, because that's the thing that you turn in along with that model file, the MWB file. So once I've got these permissions, and I'm going to click on save, and then once again, I can't remember exactly what, how did you guys call it, like your last name, and then like your app name, and then, I don't know, user or something like that. Whatever the assignment says. So what I've just done, those two things that I've just done to my BookTrader demo, those are the things that you want to have done in your project at this point, or that should be submitted today, where you're refactoring your tables and then create the user with the granting of the permissions and so on. Now you test this by going ahead and opening up a connection here. So you go to the MySQL connections, click on plus to create a new connection. Give it a name. I think that just giving it the name of the app is probably the same. I confused myself about that a little bit on Monday, but I think that BookTrader, is that what I called it before? I know I called it BookTrader demo, so let's go ahead and call this one BookTrader. And then you got to tell it which username is going to be for this connection. So it's going to be BookTrader admin That's the new trader, or the new user that I just created. And before clicking on OK, it's a good idea to go ahead and test the connection. And then you enter in the password that you got for that user, which in my case is just a password. Click on OK, and it lets me know if it was successful or not. Hopefully it is. Click OK, and now when you click on OK, it'll go ahead and open up a new tab for you. Oh no, actually, I have to actually click on this thing. Book Trader. Now it opens up a new tab here. And looks like I've already got some stuff in there. I'm a little surprised by that. It's showing from the other connection, which is odd. Normally it will not do this. Normally you open up a new connection, it'll just be brand new stuff in here. But anyway, this is where you want to try doing some of the queries. So you can see that Book Trader Demo is the only one that's visible here, right? This user does not have permissions on any other databases besides this one. Just try doing a couple of quick things. And this you do not have to turn in or anything. But yeah, if you just do like a select all on or from books, then it should work because we've got, oh wait, I got to do the use Book Trader. Even though it's the only database there, you still have to do this. Okay, there we go. And now we do select all from books, and there they are. But if we try to do like, I don't know, want to get rid of that last entry, which is ID equals 10. So let's say we try to do like delete from books where ID equals 10. We try that, and then we get the error message, delete command denied to user Book Trader admin at localhost. So even though I'm connected and my all credentials are working out, it's not going to let me do it here. You could add some users. Let me do a select all from users and see. I think that I got some users in that already. No, I do not. So let's just go ahead and add a couple of users here. So this is something else that you guys should do. You don't have to do this for today or anything, but yeah, like before you submit your backup of your database, try throwing a couple of users in here, and you could do it from your app admin here. So let's try insert into users. And I'm going to specify which columns. If you don't specify which columns, that just means that you have to type in default every time that you indicate the primary key, the auto incrementer. And if you don't, then you don't have to. So users, I got the ID, which I'll ignore, and I'm going to do username, user password, and email address. So username, user password, and email address. And values. And then I'll do a couple of these here. I thought I remembered doing this, but you know what? I may have deleted this whole database and then opened it up or reinstalled it in the course of testing this stuff out. Can't remember. So I'm going to do a user one. Oh, thank you. User password is, of course, password. And the email address is user1@users.com. Most people use example.com, by the way. This is just my little joke, but this is the most common thing to do, is like user1@example.com or something like that. But I'm going to do users. And then I'll do another one here. And this guy will be user2, who also uses the Uber original password of password. And this email address is user2@users.com. And I think that'll do it. Users, blah, 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 blah. Let's try it. Okay, got a couple. And now when I do select all from users, it works. Huzzah! So our Book Trader admin does have insert on users. We just tested it out. They were able to insert a couple of values here. So let's go ahead and do something with the junction table as well. So I'm going to do another select all from, this time users books, which is my junction table between users and the data table books. And we've got users ID, books ID, and users rating. So just a couple of foreign keys now. And then user rating is an extra column that got added in where the user can add their own rating if they've got one. If not, then they can leave it blank. So basically the user's ID has to be one of these guys here. Well, and so far all I have is 1 and 2. And then the book's ID is just the references the ID of the books table. So let me just show you what it looks like. I mean, we did something like this last semester. I can't remember what chapter it was, but we worked with a junction table, and we inserted just a couple of simple values. I can't remember what it was. But let's go ahead and just do an insert into users books. And this one we really don't need to put in any, I mean, well, I guess we have to put in default probably if we don't put in so user array. So let me just go ahead and yeah, okay, let me do it this way. I'm going to use all 3 columns. So values, and this will be for user 1, right, which is user 1. And let's say this guy likes books 2, 3, and 4. I've only got the list of 10 to choose from, so I can just pick, you know, a couple of IDs from that, or a couple of integers from that. So 2 and then default, which should give me a null value. If I wanted, I could also just type in null either way. And this is also for user 1, and user 1 also likes book 2. And let's say they gave this a rating of 4.5. They like that one. And then one more for user 1. Oh, whoops, I put the same one in here. 2, 3, and 4, I think I said, right? So 4, and this one they gave a rating of 2.5. They didn't like that one at all. So let me try that and see what happens. Oh, wait, I'm going to put it in default for these guys. Sorry. Oh, no, I got it. Got it. I'm good. There we go. Select all from users books, and now we should have a few entries in here, right? So this is all for user 1. User 1 likes books 2, 3, and 4. And then let's do some for user 2 now. Users books, and then do the same thing as before. And let's do 2 books for this person. So this is for user 2, and they like books 6 and 7. And they haven't yet given a review to number 6. Number 7, they did give a review to, and they thought this one was 4. They thought it was pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to do Control Enter. It likes it, and I'll select all from users books. Okay, so here we go. So we've got 5 entries in here, 3 books that are in the reading list for user 1, and of that, they have rated 2 of them, and they have not rated the first one. And then likewise, user 2 has 2 entries in their reading list. They like they're reading books 6 and 7. First one they have not rated yet. The second one they gave a 4.0. So this is something that you can also do. Insert a couple of values, 2 or 3 values for each of your test users into whatever is your junction table. And it does 2 things. One, it just kind of populates it out with test values. And 2, this is all stuff that I'm testing on my book trader admin to make sure that they actually have permissions to do all the stuff that I'm expecting them to. Not that I have to test everything. If I were going to test everything right now, I would also be deleting users, deleting entries on users' books, modifying entries, or rather not modifying, but updating entries, like having a user change their password or their email address or something like that. So, that's if you want to be robust about it, go ahead and test all that stuff. But for now, I'm just running a couple of queries just to make sure things are kind of running the way I expect them to. So that's about it for this one. So this is all, so far it's all review. Any questions about anything so far?
Nope.
Okay, good. So this last part, you guys are going to see, this is super simple. Go ahead and if you don't have MySQL Workbench, open it up. and go to the book trader demo. I'm going to go back to my local instance here. You can leave both of these connections open at the same time. It's not a problem. So here's the book trader demo or a book trader admin. Whenever I want to test something from that admin's point of view, I pop over to this tab, and whenever I want to get back to the root user, which I have all permissions, then I go back to my local instance over here, which is for root. So yeah, go ahead and open up MySQL Workbench if you haven't already, and activate Book Trader Demo either by double-clicking on this guy or just going to, open up a SQL tab and type in Use Book Trader Demo. Is there anyone who doesn't have this? Well, like you weren't here on Monday or something like that. Okay, good. So this last part here, this is the actual like chapter 19 stuff. So this has to do with, it's backing up a database and restoring a database is what the chapter is about. The last chapter was about securing a database, and then this one's about backing one up and restoring one. So like I told you, backing up your database is the way that I'm going to have you submit your database to me, along with the SQL script on, that you created the user and granted privileges, so I can run that on my end and so on. So, but to get this thing exported, there is an export data wizard, I guess it is. And there's two ways to get to it. One, you can go to the server menu up here. And if you drop this down, you can see data export. There's also a data import here. You guys already have your old hats at importing data now. You just import it directly into a table, which is the way I recommend doing it. So you can get to the data export there, server, go to data export, or I think what's more common is to go to the navigator panel and then just go to administration. We spend all our time under schemas where you can see the databases and tables and so on. You go to administration, there's some other stuff that you can do here. For instance, you can shut down the server if you ever need to stop everything, all at once so that you can build something and then test it out after restarting the server. You can do this stuff. You can check out client connections. Here you can check out users and privileges. So this is another way. I was doing like the show grants and so on. But if you go ahead and go to user privileges, then it'll open up a tab here and it'll let you know what the users are, what the local host is, and so on. So here is the one that I'm going to go to here, which is the data export. So this will get you to the same place that the server menu will. So either way you want to do it, I'm going to tap on data export here. And so here is the window. I wish I could get rid of this thing altogether. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. Okay, so this is the data export wizard. So it's got two tabs up here, object selection and export progress. This is the only one you have to worry about. So let me show you what you want to have selected and checked and so on in this interface here. First of all, you have to tell it what database do you want to back up. So you have to go ahead and check this. It's also, notice it gives you the ability to uncheck certain tables or schema objects as it calls them within the database. So if you just wanted to export a single table or multiple tables, you could do that. For instance, if this were a real app and I was setting up an event to have this backed up like every day at midnight or something like that, I wouldn't need to export books every single time, right? I wouldn't, because it's the same thing every time. But I would want to back up like users and users books every single time, because that's the stuff that's going to be changing every day. So, but you guys just go ahead and leave all these checked. Choose your database, leave all these checked. This should be checked by default. This is not checked, but this is a drop-down menu here. Make sure that it's set to dump structure and data, because you can choose just one or the other if you want to, but in this case, like I'm going to need both. Well, I definitely need the structure, but once you go ahead and create some test users and so on, then you want to give me that as well. So yeah, dump structure and data, which should be selected by default. And down here, export options. Let's see, can I hide this thing, or is it going to flip out on me again? Okay, good. So by default, it wants to export to a project folder. And frankly, I don't know off the top of my head exactly what that would look like, because I never do that. I'm sure I have before testing it out, but just export to a self-contained file. What this will do is it'll export to a single SQL file. Now what it wants to do, it wants to create a dumps folder for you, and it probably has already done so as soon as you opened up this data export wizard. If it didn't when you actually created, set up the permissions on the whole thing for the root user. But this is where it should be chosen by default. If you would rather that they drop these onto your desktop or something, then you can select these guys over here and change the folder. But I just let them go here into Documents, Dumps, and then it gives you a name kind of like this. It's a log number and .sql. And then create dump in a single transaction. This is a self-contained file only. This is not checked by default, but you want to check that. It's not a deal for us. Like for our purposes, whether you check this or not, actually, I don't think it will make any difference whatsoever. In fact, I'm sure it won't. But what the purpose of that is that it collects all the information and dumps it all at once as a single transaction, as it's called. So if you don't check this and you do a MySQL dump every night at midnight, it's possible that someone is creating a new user account while the database is in the process of exporting, and that can mess up the results. It can it can do weird things to the data. It's not just like, oh, this user will not get caught, and it'll get caught on the next MySQL dump. It can actually mess things up a little bit. So usually you want to have this checked. For our cases, nothing's going to be happening while you're exporting the database, so it doesn't really matter. But just as a habit, check that. I'm going to have you guys check this one too. I usually don't if I'm backing something up, because I'm in the habit of, like, if I have to restore a database, I will create the new schema just in MySQL and then import the data to that schema. But even though I should know better than to try something new in the middle of a demo, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and we'll check it. Just remind me, I'm going to open this thing up once we've got this exported, and I'm going to check and make sure that it's got the drop database that exists, book trader demo, and then also the create database book trader demo. And then that way, when you guys submit this, I'll just be able to open up your SQL file and just run the whole script, and boom, it'll just create everything that I need. I won't have to create the database first and import it or anything like that. So this is all you have to worry about for this one, but let's just take a look real quick at the advanced options over here. Now this is, you can totally leave all of these alone. This is where I would like it if they had a checkbox here that just said, include, users and permissions on this database or whatever, but there doesn't seem to be any. Flush privileges is related, but I don't think that it does that, especially since it says after dumping the MySQL database. So you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. I'm just showing you that it's here. In fact, there's more of them south of here. In the future, if you're creating and working with a database and your client or boss or whatever asks you to do something else while you're creating the backup, this would be the first place to look for it. And if it's not here, then you might have to do it manually by typing out the SQL script on MySQL dump. By the way, if you want to do, if you did want to, like what we're doing right here is a MySQL dump. It's an old script in MySQL. It's native, and so you can use that either here or you can write out the script. There is a somewhat newer one called MySQL pump instead of dump, and that's the one to use if you want a native script that will allow you to export the users and the grants and all that. So anyway, you guys don't have to worry about that. You can click return. We'll leave all this stuff alone. Double check again. There's the database. Here's my tables. I'm dumping the structure and the data. I'm exporting to a self-contained file. I'm creating dump as a single transaction, and I'm including create schema. And once you've got that stuff, and I don't seem to have, I can't see, this is what bugs me about MySQL Workbench is sometimes the interface just gets stuck. And it's like it won't let me scroll down to anything that's underneath here. In fact, it's not letting me move it at all. There we go. No, it's still not letting me do it. Hang on a second, I'm going to close this guy. Maybe. Okay, and MySQL Workbench, there we go. We're completely stuck here. Hopefully you guys don't have the same problem. Now let me try expanding this all the way. See if I can get there that way. And, wow, see, is anyone else running into this problem? Like, I don't have this problem at all on the Mac version of this, but here it's like there should be a button down towards the bottom that allows me to go ahead and choose to get this thing going, and just like the start export, and it's like I literally can't get to it. Let me try changing some of this stuff here. Wow, it's just I can't get to it. What do you is anyone else having this problem with the interface?
I was having the same problem, but I just moved it to a different monitor.
Moved it to a different monitor. I don't have one handy here, and that's too bad because I want to show you guys what happens. Oh, there we go. I can see a tiny bit of the button down here. So if that happens with you guys, if you've got another monitor, use that. But if not, just try to keep dragging it around until you can see a little bit of it. This is, I mean, MySQL Workbench is a great app, except it's buggy like this. It's just kind of messy. Let's see, so I'm going to check all this stuff again. This time I will not go to advanced options. There's the schema, the tables, structure and data, self-contained file, single transaction, create schema, and let's start the export. This is going to be in document and dumps. Okay, so it just goes ahead and goes through the process. And then it's, you know, for a small database like this, without much data in it, it goes very quick. If you've got like a lot of data, which some of you have tens of thousands of entries in your data, and that's not unheard of, then yeah, you might wind up, it might take a little bit longer. And sometimes it can even hang, it can get stuck. So hopefully that won't happen to any of you guys. Go ahead and pop over here. So here's the documents folder here, and there's the dumps folder that it created for me. And this one is the, I should have made note of the name, but I think it was the 25 one. It's not telling me here, but maybe it's under object selection. Yeah, okay. So it's the one with 510 at the end. There it is. So let me go ahead and open this up in MySQL Workbench. So I'm going to open SQL file, and I'm going to go to my documents. There's dumps, and it's this guy right here. And I'm going to open it, and here it is. So this is the exported stuff. So this is, I mean, you guys have seen stuff that kind of looks like this, like when you created the databases for the textbook exercises, and then again for like some of the midterm exam stuff, final exam stuff, I gave you an SQL script that when you open it up and ran the whole script, it would create a database for you. I mean, this is the same thing. It's just, it's a lot stricter, right? So, and it's got a lot of comments here about what are the defaults in here, and that gives you information about like what you might need to change if you want something different from the defaults and so on. Notice this, the create database if not exists, and then the use clause here. That's the all-important one. If you don't have that, then you start creating tables, and it will start putting the tables into the wrong database because a different database will be selected. So these are all comments, single line, multi-line comments you don't have to worry about. Drop table of exists book, create table books. Here we go. Let's create that table. Don't worry about the lock tables. That's okay. And then it's creating the users, and then the users books, and then down at the end it should have a bit where it's yeah, inserting into users books. There it goes. So, and then users, yeah, here. So it's the insert goes along with right after locking that table. So yeah, this is what I want to get from you. For one thing, this is like your exercise file for today, what we just did to the book trader demo. But for your own project, you're going to want to do the same thing. And the two things that I want to get from you are one, not that guy. So this one that you did for your project, where you're creating the user, give me the password that you use, the select or the grants that you, privileges that you gave them. And so I will, first of all, I will install the database, which I will get from this, and then I will run this script so that it creates the users with the permissions, and then I will start trying to run queries on your data and see how well it goes. Okay, so that's this one here. I think for the project, I have you rename this. So instead of like dump and then some log number, you actually put your last name on it and your app name like the rest of the stuff. But other than that, this is it. So just be aware, I mean, if you guys have your table set up, you could do this like right now. This is not due until Monday. And the reason why I'm leaving you guys so much extra time to do something so simple, just export this stuff, is that I want you to take some time and look over everything. Test out that admin user and insert some values into the tables that for which it's appropriate, and just test everything. Look over the tables and make sure that you don't need to add any constraints or extra clauses on anything. Take some time with it and make sure it's right, because that's what you want to do when you're working on something like this. Okay, cool. If you turn this thing in, that is all that I'm requesting for the current chapter, chapter 19, which is about, backing up and restoring a database. So to restore a database, one thing you could do is just open this up just like this and just run the script. But just be aware that there's also the data import wizard over here, and that's actually what I will be using. So let me bring back this guy here. So back here, same thing under the administration tab of the navigator. There's data import and restore, and that's also available underneath server. There's the data import. So you can go to either one and import from project folder or import from self-contained file. And let me select the file. It is the 510. And then I click on open. And if this is like creates the database and everything, then first of all, if I forgot to do create schema, then I can select a table or sorry, a database to import this into. But if not, then there's a button down here that I can just import this stuff directly, and it'll create its own database and so on. So that's what I'll be doing. Okay, any questions about any of that stuff? Or what's due, or what I'm looking for the exercise or for your project? Cool. I can't wait to get your guys' databases on Monday or before then. As soon as I start getting them, as soon as I start seeing them, I'm going to start installing them on my end and seeing if I can break them or not. So let me go ahead and get the recording stopped here.